Well, here we're in Chicago. We are, and it's about 30. It's not bad. It's not going to be bad today.
Okay.
And yesterday it was nice.
That's
but
not so bad.
it's picking up over the weekend. It's going to be pretty cold.
How was it down in Rio?
Oh, in Rio, this week have been raining a lot, but last week it was like one of the most hottest day, like 45 degrees. That was something more than 120, I think, Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
Holy cow.
Yes. That's a full summertime.
Is that unusual now?
It's usual to rain a lot during like the summer, but most with like rain storms like during the night time, but like 5 minutes, a lot of water. But I think like we can really feel like the weather changing, like the climate changing all around the world. So we are really not feeling like the seasons as we do like 10 years ago. So in Rio is quite weird this season, I have to say that. So we still have a couple minutes, right? So Joel, some other friends have to join us. If in the meantime, you just, broke and warm up a little bit, you have any questions about Rio, just use this time.
I want to make sure I could share the content with you.
Of course.
So
you have, yes, to give me ability to share my screen.
Hi, Lynn and Les.
Hi.
Hi.
Rose and Julie.
Arnie, good to see you.
Oh, there. How are you?
Okay.
Yes.
do you want to try, Tatiana, to see if you can share?
Not yet. Let me see.
I want to get it clear.
No, you still need give me permission when you have like shared the screen and all the participants can share it.
It's a screen.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, good. Say hello to Barbara.
Hi,
Hi,
Barbara.
Hello, Barbara.
How are you guys?
How's Mike doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Good, good.
I'm here. I just stay out of the picture.
Did you pack heavy for this trip to Rio?
No, because it's going to be warm. We pack mostly shorts and a bathing suit.
Of course.
Hi, Perry.
Is Tatiana our
Lini
tour
is already
guide?
drinking some caipirinha.
Oh,
Perry's
somebody's got a
muted.
special drink.
Well, if you took it off of recording, that changing.
Joel, maybe if you can give me
Oh, wait.
permission, like to be the
Yeah,
host.
Yeah, I think I'm getting it.
Sharing is hard. That's what happened last time.
So can you share it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Great. Let's just gonna do a test here that you can see my screen. Can you see my full screen?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
we can
Yeah.
see it.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Just have a little
This is a
block.
good start.
Okay, we'll get a couple more minutes, a couple more people. So.
Of course, this is just a quick introduction.
It's a
What's
cute
the population
screen.
of Rio?
6 million inhabitants only inside the city center. In the entire state, it's about 14 million inhabitants. So it's a quite big city. And the entire population of Brazil is 210 million. So we are like United States, a very big country.
Is most of it populated, or is a lot of Brazil open land?
We have like such different areas. First of all, we have Amazon area that most part is just populated by the forest and some indigenous and the natives. But we have like a big contrast, such Rio de Janeiro, that's the second largest city, and Sao Paulo, that's the largest city of Brazil with more than 23 million inhabitants. And then the country is most populated surrounding like the coast areas, so from the north to the south. And then we have some countrysides like the actual capital, that's Brasilia, that was created in 1960. Hello, Sarah Jane. Linda, welcome to Rio de Janeiro. How are you doing today?
Is she on?
You didn't turn the radio on. It's still on. Don't tell me.
It would have maybe a couple more coming.
Sure, we still have
But
time.
we have a few people who couldn't join us. But anyways, they'll see it later.
Yeah, but we still have like 2 minutes to start. And in Rio de Janeiro,
We'll start.
lifestyle is very easy, tropical mood, no rush at all. We are just following the flow. We are in a beach city, so we like to take it easy. So no
Way
worries
back.
at all.
Sounds
And-
good.
Yes, it's good. I have to say that I was born in Rio de Janeiro and I grew up in Italy. So I had this amazing opportunity because my parents moved to Italy when I was 9 years old. So I had the chance to live in Italy. I graduated in Rome at the University La Sapienza. And then I moved to live in a different country. So I already lived in Switzerland, in London, in the United States, in New York, in Barcelona, in Spain.
You've been
And
around.
10 years ago, I moved back to Rio de Janeiro. And here I fall in love for my ex-husband
Oh,
and for the city of Rio de Janeiro. So now I'm still really in love only with Rio de Janeiro.
that's your place. Where did you live in the States?
In New York City, in Brooklyn.
Oh,
Yes, because I'm also a visual artist. And when we are young, we really, and I think it's a good idea that, you know, we run behind our dreams. So I really want to be an artist and I moved to New York to study arts. I was 27 and it was a great challenge because I work as a bartender in Chelsea Market, in an
Oh.
Italian place. And I worked so hard to pay my school and it was like amazing days. And then I realized that to be an artist, or you're famous or you have rich parents. And that's neither a solution, it fits for me. So I said, okay, let's gonna work with tourism. That was my graduation.
oh. It's worked out all these years.
Yeah, but I think like all this experience makes me the person who I am, and I'm very proud of that. You know, that's I can mix like all these passions in my life. Like I love to travel. I am so curious, and I love people. I believe to be a tour guide, should be one of the first thing you need to really love people. Otherwise you cannot do this work. And
Right.
with the pandemic was just crazy, like this situation, how we have to adapt ourselves to become virtual guides. And this also give us access to another world that for me it's so amazing, because always when you have like virtual tours like that, you always have some nice exchange. You always give something, like a part of you, and you receive something from people that in other part of the world. So I really like this experience. And always is also an invitation that this pandemic are going to end a day. I hope so much. And we can travel again and maybe one day hug each other.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, Tatiana, if anybody will come late, we'll let them in, but you could start
All
anytime.
right. It will be a nice idea if you guys can spotlight me. So you're going to see me in the frontal screen, and also unmute yourself anytime before we start. Today,
Yeah, I'm gonna mute, excuse me, I'm gonna mute everybody
Sure.
right now.
and
We haven't,
your best
okay, you can unmute yourself.
perfect. Okay, here we go. And if you also want to spotlight me, you are going to see me in the front screen. I prepared today an amazing tour to discover together the wonderful city. And Rio de Janeiro is one of the most iconic cities in the world. I'm so glad that I was born here. And as I was saying in the beginning, I am Tatiana Araújo, professional tour guide, visual artist, and in love with Rio de Janeiro. I prepare a 40 minutes video that I'm going to live guiding you, but anytime that you need to know something, you can unmute yourself, say, hey, Tati, stop for a minute. Just, and in the end of the tour, we are going to have 10, 15 minutes to share, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions. And let's gonna start to travel to the wonderful city. I'm going to share with you my screen. And we are going to sit and hold on and travel to South America. Landed. Before we start our journey, I prepare in 1 minute a spectacular day just to give you a short introduction to Rio de Janeiro. Hey, I'm Tatiana Araújo, your local tour guide in Rio de Janeiro. From the most famous tourist attractions such Christ Redeemer and Sugarloaf up to the downtown area with all the eclectic architecture, churches and museums, bohemian and samba, art, graffiti, gorgeous beaches, and the rainforest. More than tours, I provide unique experience to my visitors. We have all this and much more. Come with me, I'll show you the best spots in town. All right. We have romantic and not only spots in Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is a city where you can stay 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or also 1 week, 2 weeks, because you have several tourist attractions. Just let's gonna give some geological and geographic tips. We are located in the south of the country, in the coast, and just to understand all the amazing city that we have, let's gonna see a bit of the history. Rio de Janeiro is called River of January. Do you know why? Because the Portuguese, they landed here on 1502, and wrongly they think to be in a large mouth of a river. So they named the city River of January. The first Portuguese who arrived to Brazil in 16th century, they went to Salvador in the north of the country. That also, it was the first capital of Brazil. And then when Gaspar de Lemos arrived here on 1502, he really arrives in Botafogo, and he just makes say, oh, this is a beautiful mouth of a river. And it wasn't a bay. So he named the city River of January. That was wrong, but we like our name. And after that, we become a colony of Portugal. And the Portuguese, they really like our city. And they also have to fight against some French soldiers. They want to take over Rio and found here a tropical Paris. But the Estácio de Sá, a brave captain of Portugal, he wanted the French troops and found the city of Rio de Janeiro on March 1565. And this year, on March 1st, you are going to complete 457 years old. So we are quite a young city. Rio de Janeiro to become the capital of the colony only on 1763. And it was the capital for almost 200 years until 1960 when they create Brasilia. That's actually the capital in the middle of the country. And they decentrate the power a little bit of Rio. Just for letting you know that Rio de Janeiro is one of the largest and cultural economic centers in the country, where 6% of the Brazilian GDP is concentrated, and the annual number of tourists reach more than 5 million, being those 2 million foreign tourists. So our city is one of the most touristic cities in South America. And in Rio de Janeiro, we, of course, have heard that the marvelous cities is not only because we have this amazing and lush nature, but we have amazing tourist attraction, such, for example, one of the most important, that's Christ Redeemer. And they take a ride on a helicopter to show you this amazing statue from the top. It's an iconic statue that's 38 meters tall. That's about 9-8 feet. And from one hand to another hand is 35 meters. It was inaugurated on October 12, 1931, and it's considered today, that's an election that was held in 2007, one of the 70 wonders of the world. These are some old pictures because Christ Redeemer project doesn't start only on the 20th century, but before that, in 19th century, the second king of Brazil, Peter II, he started to create the first railroad that go up to the summit of Corcovado mountain. So Corcovado is the name of the mountain that's 710 meters tall. And he creates this beautiful railroad. And in the top of this mountain at the time, in the end of 19th century, he created this viewpoint. He loves to go up there and have some picnics with the Empire family. That's not too bad, right? And in the beginning of 19th century, we had a contest in Rio de Janeiro to create a monument to celebrate the fate of Christianity of Brazilians. So Heitor Silva Costa, this engineer, he won this project initially with a Christ Redeemer holding a cross in one hand and a globe in the second hand. But the Brazilians, the Cariocas, like Brazilians who born and raised in Rio de Janeiro are called, they didn't like this idea because they start to call the Christ of the ball with the soccer meanings. So Heitor Silva Costa, the engineer, changed his mind and redesigned Christ Redeemer with open arms to represent a cross with his own body. And thanks to this idea, we had the largest Art Deco statue in the world that's located in the top of Corcovado Mountain, and where you can see all over the city. Copacabana Beach with the 4 kilometers of coast, the lagoon, Rodrigo de Freitas, that's a natural lagoon, and also it's considered the heart of Rio de Janeiro. And there is like different ways to go up. This is an old train station, and this model of the train is already the fourth model. It takes 20 minutes to arrive to reach the summit up here, and this train, it can bring per time 140 passengers, and it's passing every 20 minutes. Once you arrive into the station, you can choose between 200 steps or the elevator. And then you can see Jesus, beautiful in Art Deco, made it in concrete and totally covered by soapstone. And this construction, it not only takes some Brazilian, but also a French Poland sculptor. It was involved in the construction. He designed and sculpted the head and the heads of the statue in Paris. And then he have to ship it to Brazil. That was a very challenge for that time. And the entire construction of Christ Redeemer, it takes between 1920 until 1931. The initial idea to create this statue, it was to celebrate the centenary of the independence of Brazil that happens on 1821. But it works only 9 years later. All right, here we have some amazing images when those pieces arrived, and then they have to bring it with the train up to the mountain. So it was a lot of work. Let me just pass here. That was a little delay. Okay. Here we go. Let me see. Okay, oops, here. Okay. And this is very interesting because in this picture of the ice, you can see how the statue, it was totally covered up by soapstone. There was made it like a great work of a mosaic. And one, of course, tours that I recommend if you come to Rio, it's doing a helicopter tour. And last year in December, I had a unique experience in my life. I was invited as a tour guide to climb the 38 steps inside of Christ Redeemer and arrives to his right arms. And I was crying, I was smiling. It was one of the most exciting experience in my life. I'm feel totally blessed, and I realized a dream. I see, and this was taken by drone. So that was one of, I think, like, look, this smile, one of the most touching moments in my life. But let's gonna go over to Copacabana Beach, the Princess of the Sea. And you know that the origin of the famous sidewalk is not Brazilian. It came from Portugal at Rochos Square in Lisbon. Over there, it was founded like the first mosaic square with this wave, meaning the meeting of the river with the ocean. And in Copacabana, they created the same design they imported from Portugal in 1905. And here we have some very old and vintage and very cool picture how it looks Copacabana until 1930, also with the great Copacabana Palace Hotel. Still today, that's how it looks today. An iconic hotel in Rio de Janeiro, 5-star, very luxury and classy, that was created by a French architect called Géry. That was also the same architect who created the Negresco in Nice. And then in 1970, this great Brazilian paisagist architect, Roberto Burle Marx, he was the great composer of the new avenue. So they expand the Atlantic Avenue, creating 2 avenues, redesigning the sidewalk, and also introducing some central parts with very unique geometric designs. Copacabana is 4 kilometers long, and of course is one of the most famous tourist attractions in the city. Here you can have caipirinhas, coconut waters. You can just walk along this promenade for 4 kilometers. And also you have several tourist attractions along the way and many kiosks. And in the beginning and in the end of the Copacabana Beach, you have 2 military fortresses. This one is Duque de Caxias. They are open to the public and also you can visit for free, of course, using mask during this time. But this is how it looks, for example, Copacabana in the busy days. So many people, but Copacabana is not only a very iconic place where you can walk, stay to the beach, is also stage of a very important events that happens in the city. All my tourists, they of course want to take some pictures with Copacabana in the background, but it was also hosting like the Young International Day when Pope Francisco came and reunited more than 5 million people in the beach. But every year also is a stage for New Year events and Carnival. This year, for the first time, Carnival will be postponed. So we are not going to celebrate it in February, but only in April. In the end of Copacabana, also we have the second fort that's called the Copacabana. It's a very popular tourist attraction because it's where the neighborhoods start to be created. In this exactly place where today we have this military fort, we have a military museum. Also, it was where some Spanish merchants, they built a small chapel dedicated to Copacabana Virgin. That was a veneration of a Virgin Mary brought from the city of Titicaca in Bolivia. And over there, so they have to just put down this small chapel to build the military fort to protect the city. And when you visit the military museum, also there is a small spot where you still can see the original Virgin Mary that was brought in 16th century from Titicaca Lake in Bolivia. And this one, it's why until today, Copacabana is called like that. And of course, if you go there, you cannot miss a breakfast or just a quick stop for tea time in the afternoon, because we have 2 very famous bars inside of this military fort, and you can see all these amazing views. Of course, all these old canyons, they are not anymore active, but it's still like guarantee the safety of the entrance of Guanabara Bay. Those ones are the cafes, and they have like delicious breakfast, and also you can have some caipirinhas or tea. It's now during COVID situations, everything like with the QR code. So they have, of course, this was a very nice breakfast time that I had here. So with some pão de queijo, orange juice, cheese bread. We used to have during breakfast some sweet and salted. Of course, great hotels also are part of Copacabana. And this was just a very nice picture of me on the promenade. But Rio de Janeiro is not only tourist spot, it's a natural spot like Tijuca Forest. Tijuca Forest is a national park today that was consecrated as a national park in 1961 with more than 450 8,000 square and it's considered the second urban largest forest in the world. Inside of this national park, you can do several trails, you can hiking, you can arrive there by car, you can have viewpoints like this one, the Chinese view, and it's a must go place in Rio because you're going to discover just amazing plants, a tree, and you're going just to stay with your breath suspend. If you arrive, for example, in one of those ramps at Pedra Bonita, where you can jump using hand gliding, I did it 3 times. So Rio de Janeiro is a perfect city for who loves sports, who loves nature, who loves art, and just who loves amazing views, because this city, it can give to you all these practices. I love nature and I love hiking. So this is Pedra do Telégrafo. This is more for young because you have to hiking like for 2 hours to arrive there, and you can find several animals. Those are raccoons. Also, you can find in the beginning of the Tijuca Forest, you saw some monkeys. That's like a small marmoset monkeys. And the Tijuca Forest, as I say, is the second largest urban forest, but also we have different biomas in the same city. So you can also stand up paddle in the groups, and you also can experience, of course, then of nature, culture, a lot of the adventure. And I am adventure girl. And I use also to jump with skydiving. Coming back to the art, we have Lapa in downtown area. This actually is the third most visited spot in Rio de Janeiro. These famous steps, they are called Escadaria Celarón, because Jorge Celarón, he was a Chilean artist who came to Rio de Janeiro in the 80s, and he rented a small house in the top of this staircase, and he started to decorate it using more than 2,000 tiles that comes from over 60 countries in the world, using in the central part the colors of a Brazilian flag, and in the sides he used the red because he was inspired on oops, this was to be before. Sorry, just I mean this was like in the when I was like mounting the video, but you know I am just have to learn as well how to create all this during these 2 virtual tours. And for who loves sport, maybe the gentlemen here know, but Maracanã Stadium, it was until the 2016 World Cup, the largest soccer stadium, and then have to pass through a modernization. They introduced some seats, and today it can host something about 9,000 spectators per time. And it's one of the most famous soccer stadiums in the world because Brazil football teams, they are quite famous, and they have one of the largest fan club in the world, and for sure you can recognize Brazilians fans of soccer because they make a lot of noise, they dance, they color themselves. Okay, we have a lot of things to see. Santa Teresa, for example, it's my neighborhood where I live. And I love to share something interesting because here you are going to see in the end of the tour this cathedral it was just building at the time. And in Rio de Janeiro, still today, we have some very charming tram that cross over downtown area. And this tram start to ride up to Santa Teresa in the end of 19th century. And today is another great tourist attraction. It's inspired in the same train of Lisbon. In here, you can see that are crossing an old aqueduct that was a colonial work, a massive work that was ready only on 1750 to bring water to the Tijuca forest, to downtown Rio. And when they created the tram, they start to use it like a tramway. So the tram, it crossed this Lapa Arch and go up to Santa Teresa, the neighborhood of the artists, the artisans, the Montmartre Carioca. If you have been to Paris, of course you visit Montmartre, that's the artistic neighborhood, but Santa Teresa, it's called like that because we have the first convent dedicated to the Carmelitas nuns that was inaugurated in 1767, and it was dedicated, given to in honor of Santa Teresa d'Avila. That's why the entire hill, it was started to be called Santa Teresa. You can see that this is a colonial construction, and Rio de Janeiro is such an eclectic city because you can find several historical construction, but also some very modern construction. So it's a city full of contrast. I always say that Rio de Janeiro is one of the craziest city in the world because we have a lot of rich people and a lot of poor people. We have a beautiful views, but also we have very bad views. And when you arrive in Rio, you really can have this sensation. It's something that's very impact to you. And the Rio de Janeiro is one of the kind of cities that or you like or you don't like. And in Santa Teresa, for example, look those houses. They are totally inspired in German houses. This is why, because also in the end of 19th century, we had a lot of immigrants that came to Rio de Janeiro. We have like a different phases of immigration that brought a lot of European, Jewish, and also Japanese to South America, and more specific to Brazil. So when I say that Rio de Janeiro is the city of a contrast because we have colonial, we have European, but also we have favelas. Do you know what favelas are? They are like the poor areas, the slum. And in Rio de Janeiro, we have more than 300 favelas all surrounding the city. Here, I was visiting an art project called Mojinho that was started like a play of kids. And today it's a visited place. You can see walking through this very poor and simple house, only in a brick. And people say, oh, but there is a lot of violence. Yes, of course. Rio de Janeiro is a very big city. But inside of this favela, also we have regular families who lives there, and they live there because they don't have opportunity to pay very expensive rents outside of those areas. This art project is a miniature like of a great complex of the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. It's a kind of a copy of a reality that was made like a great sculpture, creating like a colorful favelas of Rio de Janeiro. This project, it becomes a very famous art social project, and today they have a permanent exhibition in the first floor of the Contemporary Art Museum in Rio de Janeiro. I'm very, very glad of this project. Of course, if you come to Santa Teresa, you can see a lot of old Volkswagens cars, because housing the top of the hills, you need a good car, and many, many atelier of artists. We have more than 80 ateliers of artists. And today, Santa Teresa is one of the most touristic neighborhoods in the city. You can come here also for the gastronomy or like for find me painting on the streets. And you also can meet some local artists. You can have like some delicious açaí and pão de queijo. Do you know what açaí is? I think it's very popular now in the States as well. It's a berry from Amazon forest, Amazon tree, palm tree. And we are serving as ice cream, and it's a very powerful meal. And the pão de queijo is a little cheese ball that's very traditional all around Brazil. Of course, when I bring my tourists in Santa Teresa, there is like specific spots where I bring them to take pictures, like in artworks that I do, but also into Ruiz Park, where you can have all these amazing views from downtown and the Guanabara Bay. So Santa Teresa is a very must-go place to Rio de Janeiro. If you're planning one day to come here, this for sure is a place that you cannot missing. Let's gonna take the train down now to go to downtown area because we have other spectacular touristic things. And remember, this is just some highlights of the wonderful city because we have much more to offer. And here we can see the Metropolitan Cathedral. That's a unique cathedral in a modernist style. This is some atelier of artists that he creates a crazy sculpture using like things that he finds in the garbage. This is another amazing artist called Getúlio, and he works on the street painting, the garbage, recycling materials. And those ones I love to, for example, bring my clients there because are very unique souvenirs and they are also quite cheap ones. So I love this guy so much. He have like an old tram as atelier. Here you can see. And everyone in the neighborhood just loves so much Getúlio. And I love to also to bring those particular artists that sometimes it can be hard. This was me filming for you. Find, on internet. I think this is very local experience because when we travel, of course, we want to see the most famous tourist attraction, but also have something that is a unique experience for sure, make your tour remarkable. Is that right? So here we have some visits, and in here you can see Sugarloaf Mountain in the Guanabara Bay, and this old castle that also is a hotel boutique, quite expensive. Here also we have, it's not only hippie and artistic and bohemian, but also we have some luxury structure in Santa Teresa. And of course, one of the most famous spots in Santa Teresa is to be there during Carnival because we celebrate Carnival. And from Santa Teresa, we are going to see a little bit of the modern port. That's a new area that was totally rebuilt in Rio de Janeiro, revitalized, sorry, and where you can find the Museum of Tomorrow, but also the largest art graffiti in the world that was called Ethnias. It was realized in 2016 by this Brazilian artist called Eduardo Cobra, and he represented 5 indigenous people representing like the 5 continents. Here, the first one, we have the Huli from Papua Nova Guinea representing Oceania. Here we have the Chukchis, indigenous from the North Russian, representing Europe. And then we have representing Americas, the old and almost extinct tribe native of Brazilians, Tapajós from Amazon forest, representing Asia, we have the ladies from Niemeyer that put the rings on their the karen, the rings on their neck. And then we have the mother of the world, Africa, represented by a native tribe from Ethiopia, Mercy native. And this was painted in 2016 in the port area. So when the cruise ships arrives in Rio, they arrive and they are welcoming here with this beautiful scenery that I really hope the mayor of the city are going to ask for the artists painted again, because the colors are just getting a little bit old. And we cannot talk about Rio de Janeiro without talk a little bit of bossa nova. I'm sure that you know and probably you like some bossa nova, and Ipanema is the perfect background to introduce you this worldwide famous rhythm. We have a statue of Tom Jobim, one of the fathers with the mask as well, that is located in the beginning of Ipanema. Also, it was the neighborhood where he used to live. Ipanema is a charming and classy and very expensive neighborhood. It's more residential than Copacabana. And here you find more condos and of course some hotels, but it's less popular than Copacabana. And this is just a nice walk during a weekend in the beach. Of course, Brazil, we have those tiny bikinis, but also in the beach you can have some very amazing and traditional snacks, like for example biscoito globo and tea that is served in these gallons, or also some nuts or cheese grilled at the time. That's very weird, like, but you know, place that you go, traditions that you find. And you used to stay in the beach until the sunset. But we cannot talk about Rio de Janeiro without talk about Carnival. And to give you an introduction about Carnival, I bring this 1 minute video that's very explanative.
From samba blocos in Brazil to masked balls in Italy, Carnival is a truly global phenomenon, celebrated in over 50 countries around the world. Carnival originated as a pagan festival in ancient Egypt to usher out winter and celebrate the beginning of spring. When Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, the ancient Greeks adopted the festival. The Romans assimilated the festival from the Greeks, and it was later overlaid with Christian meaning to become the festival of Carnevale. The word carne means meat in Latin, and vale means farewell. In the Catholic calendar, Carnevale, farewell to meat, is a feast before the fast of Lent. In 18th century Italy, people preparing for Lent would throw indulgent fancy dress parties and gorge before the fast. As Christianity spread across Europe, so too did the celebration of Carnival. Colonization exported it across the world. Portuguese colonists took Lent to the shores of Brazil, where they had also taken an estimated 4 million African slaves. Over time, European rituals fused with African ones to create Brazil's world-famous carnival. The flamboyant street parties are a celebration of Brazil's mixed heritage, and it's big business. In 2016, the city of Rio alone welcomed 1.1 million tourists during Carnival, contributing around $900 million to the city's economy.
So Carnival is a big business in Brazil. It's one of the first industry of the city, and we celebrate it every year. Of course, 40 days before Easter, but as I say, this year, for the first time in the history, it was postponed. And the competition in the Sambadrome is a great competition, like a Champions League that happens during 3 nights, and tickets can be very, very expensive. The Samba Drum, it was built on 1984, also to celebrate the end of dictatorship in Brazil that happens from 1964 until 1984 by the great architect Oscar Niemeyer. And in the Samba Drum, it's not only the carnival, but also we have, like I show already, we have the street blocks in all the parts of the city. If you come here during carnival time, it's just a crazy time and a lot of parties all over the city. Look how crowded the streets they arrive to be. And not last, not least, but the second most visited tourist attraction in Rio de Janeiro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sugarloaf Cable Car. Also, this, to be honest, it was the first tourist attraction to be created in Brazil. It's dated 1912. Yes, more than 120 years old. And it's part of the landscape of Rio de Janeiro. The coming and going of the bondinhos, those cable cars, are just a unique experience ever to all the tourists who visit Rio de Janeiro. We have 3 stations, and from each station you take one ride. So from Praia Vermelha, and you can see all the Guanabara Bay. That's one that we are looking to. Downtown Rio, and this is a Flamengo. Also, this is quite interesting because all this green here, it's a park that was landfill in the 60s. It was a crazy project. Think of Lota de Macedo Soares, a Brazilian architect, and she was inspired on the Central Park in New York. So today we have 8 kilometers of an amazing park, and also is the connection from downtown area to the south area of Rio de Janeiro. And down here also we have the domestic airport that is located in downtown Rio. This part, all the water that we are seeing here, is part of the Guanabara Bay. So the Guanabara Bay had more than 410 kilometers. It's a huge bay. It's the second bay of Brazil, like the second largest bay of Brazil. On the first hill, we are about 220 meters. We can see the first and the oldest 2 models of the cable cars. This yellow one, it was inspired on the first tram that we saw in Santa Teresa. And the second one, that was one of the most classic ones. Today, we are at the 4th generation of the cable cars, and each ride, it takes only 3 minutes from one station to another one. And when you arrive to the Sugarloaf, that's 396 meters, you can see Copacabana, you can see the entire Atlantic Ocean and the beautiful skyline of Rio de Janeiro. It's just one of the most beautiful, beautiful views of the wonderful city. It's something just breathtaking. You can see the little Praia Vermelha, that one, the red beach. And of course, you can see Christ Redeemer just in the front, in the top of Corcovado Mountain, but also the other beach that's like Two Brothers Hill, Pedra Bonita. All these are part of Tijuca rainforest. So Rio de Janeiro is a city that you have to discover because it have, as I am showing you, many, many beautiful locations. One of the things that I love to propose to my clients is stay there until the sunset, because the light is just something superb, amazing. And coming to downtown, before we finish, there is after like three left very nice things that I want to show you. One is the oldest library that's called Real Gabinete de Leitura Portuguesa. And that was a library created by Portuguese to keep the memory of Portugal. It was inaugurated on 1874. It's totally in Manuelito style outside, and inside it looks like a movie of Harry Potter. It's totally made on iron, and it have like this eclectic and ecolic columns, and it had more than 3,500 volumes of rare books that came from Portugal. It's a beautiful, beautiful library. That's in the New York Times. It say that it's one of the most, it's one of in between like the 10 most beautiful libraries in the world. So we have very, very big treasures in Rio de Janeiro, not only beach, nature, but also architecture. That's why, for example, look this municipal theater that's dated from 1909. And this was a very specific time when Rio de Janeiro wants to be a tropical Paris. So they start to copy some old models of Europe. Here I need to put a little bit more. And you can see that this, for example, it can be very similar to the opera in Paris. This is why we say that all those buildings, they are eclectic. And also I bring here to you, this is the camera hall. And here I bring to you just, okay. Also the Grand Temple Israelita, that was the first synagogue to be created in 1928 by Italian architect Mario Vedrete, that he isn't Jewish, but it was like he was inspired in the great synagogue of Trieste and Florence. And he also asked for the help of the Jewish architect Italian Guido Levi. So this architecture of the Grand Temple, it's monumental, and it was officially inaugurated only in 1932. And most of the Jewish community in Rio, they resided there in that area in downtown Rio. And the Great Temple, it was a great expression of also of the Brazilian and the historical identity of the Jewish community. This year, we inaugurated the monument of the victims to the victims of the Holocaust in the Morro do Pasmado. This we traveled here in the Sugarloaf Mountain. So from the top in front of Sugarloaf, we inaugurate this beautiful, beautiful project. I bring here a short video. That was a very dedicated and delicate monument that was inaugurated this year in Rio de Janeiro. We have the Fiscal Island, that also it was one of the first Gothic construction, and the Metropolitan Cathedral, that's the unique modernist cathedral that was inaugurated on 1979 by the architect Edgar da Fonseca. And it's a huge cathedral dedicated to San Sebastian. Rio de Janeiro is a city where you can combine different religions, different tastes, and different tourists. This is the marvelous city. Thank you for being with me in this tour. I hope that you enjoying this quick introduction. to Rio de Janeiro. Obrigada in Portuguese is thank you so much. And now we have our Q&A session.
Wow, that
So
was
did you
terrific.
enjoy it?
That was wonderful. Didn't know that Rio had so much to offer. All you hear about is the crime. But it sounds like it's a beautiful city. How is the crime there?
Is the crime is quite high, but like quite for a big city. The problem in Brazil is that we have a lot of rich people and a lot of poor people. We don't have like a big middle class. So there is a lot of people who have a lot and a lot of people who don't have nothing. This is why, in my opinion, of course, I'm not an economist, but the unique solution for this country is invest more in education. And unfortunately, with this last president, this guy here that we have, you're not doing well at all. But this year we have elections, so let's see.
Anybody have any questions for Tatiana?
Same second.
Oh, you could unmute yourself. It's like Arnie.
Yes, what's the Jewish population of Rio?
I'm not
Tatiana?
sure. I need to check it out because I cannot say too, but it's a big population. We have like 2 immigrations. They are focused on Copacabana and in downtown area. I know that in downtown area where there is the Grand Temple, they arrived in the late of 19th century, but I don't have exactly number for you. So I need to check it out and then I'll send to Joel an email with this number.
Well, the second part of the question is, are the young people staying in Rio of all kinds of people? Are the youngsters staying there?
Yes, they say we have a young population. It's like also a characteristic of Brazil that we have a large young population. Also, the new graduates are of course for the difficulties find in our country. We have like a different economics area. We have oil, we have tourism, but when they decide, for example, to graduate in another thing in technologies, they are more going away. Unfortunately, this is also another great problem because also our employment is growing up after this big pandemic, growing up and up and up.
What was the population again of Rio?
6 million in inhabitants only inside the city center. In the entire state of Rio, 14 million. It's a big city.
Tatiana, how many years did it take you to get certified?
To certify as a tour guide, 2 years. You have to do like a school, of course, for 1 year, and then you have to do like a national proof for the Ministry of Tourism, and then you have to validate your certificate every 5 years. So you have to study a lot. But we are a young country. I studied in Rome, so it was much much more to study.
How many languages do you speak, Tatiana?
I speak Portuguese, English, a bit of French, Spanish very well, and Italian.
Wow.
So this is why sometimes also I create crazy words that they doesn't exist.
So how is the COVID there now? Is it a lot of people vaccinated?
Yes, because Brazil, it has a very good historical of vaccination. I am still, for example, I am 38 and I'm still have like in my arm, the vaccine that's in your country, you don't do anymore. But and of course, our president, it was the first one to say that he doesn't want vaccine. So it was just a challenge in the beginning, but now I think like we had like 70% of the population covered by like the two shots of vaccine.
Did you say 70 or 70?
70.
70%? That's
Yeah.
better than the States.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Smaller country.
Exactly.
Are tourists starting to come back?
Slowly, because the problem is not like to come to travel, but you know, if you're the city is closed, if there is a new variant, so people still doesn't feel so safe. For example, the largest part of the visitor who is coming is young people, but like families or who have really to work, or we have a lot of digital nomads now. They are coming to Rio. They can home work, but like families who have to plan the vacation, they're thinking about to go far away, because if something happens, we are not still safe 100%. You know, they are not safe if they are going to close the airport. So we are not still receiving the same numbers of the tourists. And thanks to you also, you're like helping me a lot with these virtual tours. So thank you.
Very interesting. Any other questions we have? I'm not sure if there's anything else.
So thank you so much. Also, in name of Tour by Locals, I really appreciate that you chose a destination. I really send you, in Portuguese, you say beijo mwah, to all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. See you, I hope, next time in person.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
She was good.